This is TWiT.
Submerged is out. Did you like it?
Alex, tell me you saw Submerged. Tell me about it. I saw it. I have opinions, but I really am curious what you think of it.
Seen it a couple times. So I think overall, it is the finest 180 degree footage ever released. I mean, and I've worked on a lot of that footage, that type of footage, 360, 180, that type of thing. It is amazing. There are things that story is okay, like not very compelling story, but I think that it was fine for what they were doing as a technology briefing. I do think that you could make a story in 5 minutes or 7 to. I think that sometimes a feature film director will think of this as like a toy and not really treat it like I really want a true Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. They had those, but it was pretty loose. I think that the close-ups don't really work for me. Like, I just think that they're uncomfortable and they're weird. But everybody does them once. Like when we do this, a lot of us have done this for a while, and you're kind of like, oh, well, they went down that path. The wide shots don't necessarily work that well. The in-between shots are amazing. Like it is the 3D works, the sparks in the water. I mean, there's some things, as someone who's done this, going from above the water to below the water, that is hard. Like really hard, Does
that mean there's a problem though in filmmaking? Because if you can't do a close-up and you can't do a wide shot, that everything has to be a medium shot.
It doesn't mean, I think the close-up, so number one is that I think that you can do close-ups. I don't really like them. There's a lot of things about filmmaking I don't like when I see a movie. So it's not like it's, so I don't think that the close-ups work, or if you do, I think one of the things was they kind of followed the rule of, don't cut too fast, and then you're stuck on this close-up for a long time.
That can make you uncomfortable.
I like the close-up because I mean, you're right. I don't know if I liked it as much as I liked the idea that I was watching the director think, how do I direct a viewer's attention when I have a 180-degree screen? And the answer was, I'm going to be pushed really close in on this actor, and I'm going to have an incredibly shallow depth of field so that behind him is just kind of fuzzed out, so that you have to look at him. Yeah. But I thought that was interesting. I really kind of liked the wider shots, but they don't feel like film to me. They feel like theater. Well, I still think live theater is good, and it felt like that. And I thought that was wider shots,
I really only mean at the very end.
The very end, sure.
The medium wide shots, or the wide shots
in the bunks of the submarine.
No, that in the torpedo area.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah,
unbelievable.
That's good.
I mean, as someone who's worked on this for 15 years. There was shots in there that we were just like, that just is so gorgeous, and it's just a
you were concerned last week that it was a conventional director doing it.
There are moments like that, those close-ups that are conventional director. There are things that they did this thing in the cafeteria where they're talking back and forth, and the way he used the camera, I think that someone would have really loved to just sit at the end of that table and watch them talk, and let you just,
because you can look back and forth.
He tried to do some. I think you can see him experimenting, right? Because one of the things that he tried to do to give you a sense of the space, but not do the quick cuts, is he would do the reverse shots. So you end up with there's a wide shot, and then there's the reverse of the same shot. So you don't leave the space, which, like, I get it from a geography standpoint, and I think it functioned that way. But I think you're right, Alex, that maybe that wasn't, like, I love the experiment, but I think that your point of maybe you should just be sitting at the table is maybe the right one there.
And I think that there are things that they did that I would never do, that I thought, so this is what's great about having a director and them experimenting, and probably having something that's probably close to $1 million a minute to do this.
Jeez.
Is they did things, that's my guess. Like, if someone asked me to bid on what I just saw, I'd say $1 million a minute. Like, it is super, the money, there's so much money.
Why is it so expensive? Is it the shooting? Is it the editing?
They built an entire set that has to work building a set that has to work in 360 degrees is not trivial. Like, that is, and especially one with that much detail at that resolution. So the resolution, I don't know exactly what it is per eye, but it was eye. Like, it was super sharp. I mean, and so the thing is every detail has to be there. They have got multiple parts of that set. Then they have this, you have to being able to cover that set at 180 degrees, and then all the bits and pieces of it. And the thing that he did that I would have said, no, don't do that. But when I saw it worked, is he moved the camera really fast. So there's 2 or 3 shots where he goes, and he pushes it, and you feel it in your stomach. You feel like, and that you don't feel in a film. Like, and I was like, those 2 or 3 shots, I was like, we're in a whole different world of filmmaking, because you can now like I was like, whoa, again, I am traditional enough in the 180-degree world. There's a few of us that have been doing this for a long time. That's kind of breaking the rules. Like, don't do that. And he broke the rule, and it created an effect on the viewer, at least for me, that I've never had before watching a regular film. Now, I've had it in 180 before, because if someone screws up with the camera, you get really uncomfortable. But he did just fast enough to give you that feeling without. So now, some people I've talked to, it was too much. Like, it was that move was too much for them.
Pushing it, for sure.
There was a weird shot where the torpedo goes through you, and I was kind of like, I don't know if I need that shot. Like, I thought it was kind of cool, but I was but other people mentioned it too. The torpedo shot I thought was a little off, and I would have just been happy sitting between the tubes and having it just. I think that there's an opportunity as you do filmmaking one of the things with 180 is I really like being at head height, watching the scene occur and experiencing that scene, and not necessarily having you have to drive my viewer. Like, there was a point where he's trying to close the tube, and you're looking ahead and you're caught over here, and then suddenly you realize, you look over to one side and he's trying to close this thing up and you're like, oh, I missed that part. You know, when you watch, and it gives you an opportunity, even though it's short, you wanted to watch it a couple times because you knew that you were missing things. And I also thought that you may end up with stories that are not 2 hours long, but you may watch them for 2 hours because there's other things to see in that area. The 3D, again, the resolution, amazing. There's no shadowing that we see. Like, a lot of times, there's just all kinds of problems with 180, and they solve them with hardware or software. I'm not sure which. I think some of those close-ups might not have been those 180 cameras. I think they might have been a more traditional production pipeline to do that. I think that would be very hard to do with the 180 cameras. So there's a bunch of things that they did there, but I think that it's really an entirely different medium. And, and I think that it took it way further than I expected. Like, so I have quibbles about it, but it is like if they start releasing a lot of footage at that level, it's pretty. And someone asked me, like, is that going to get more people to buy more headsets? And I was like, no, but the current owners will get a lot cockier.
Yeah, and I suspect there are a bunch of filmmakers out there who are watching this and thinking, oh, I want to try that sometime. Maybe Apple should give me a lot of money, because what I got the sense is that what is it, Edward Berger is, I think, the name of the director. He's a pro, and he's a good director, and he was. It's very clear he was very thoughtful about what he wanted to try here, and some of the things are a little experimental, and to Alex's point, there's some push in and pull back shots that are slower, and I thought, I like that. I like that there's camera movement. And there's one where it pushes in and actually tracks to the right, I think. Yeah. And like, I like that. And then he does the fast one, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what I think about that one, but I love that he was trying all of that stuff. I love that he did not do the ESPN, quick cut thing. There's no shaky cam, because you can't do that. No, but instead, what I got out of it is, the sets are amazing, and it reminded me of an experience like the Star Wars thing at Disneyland, where you have to build an intricate set because you don't know where the people are looking, because they're just walking through it, and it's like that. You can look anywhere, and so the set was amazing. And then, like I said, I really like the live theater vibe I got. There was a shot where you are in the bunks with the crewman, and the one crewman wakes up, and like, it was like watching a theater presentation, because in that moment, it's all on the actor. Mm. All you can do is watch the actor, his whole body. He's flinging his legs over the side. He's acting, and it's so much like he's on a stage and I'm watching him, where I have to do the watching, right? He has to perform with his whole body. The camera's not going to zoom in. He's gonna have to perform, and then I, as the viewer, get to decide sort of like how I observe this scene. And that's not film. It's theater, but I dug it. I thought it was pretty cool.
And I think that the hard part is, if you watch it a couple times, not the first time I saw it, but you watch it a couple times, not all the actors are hitting it on all cylinders for every take. And the thing is that that's something that's harder in 180, because even, in film, you're doing this one little clip, and there's only one person that has to really, or a handful of people that really have to nail it. in this case, everybody has to nail it. And because it's close up, it's
more like
there.
theater.
And so
right?
I think that, again, like theater, I think that, and I do agree with Jason that this is a calling card. Like, this is what you now is public. I'm sure that there's other things that they've shown that's private to filmmakers, but this is the thing that lets those filmmakers know, like, hey, we're in for business. Like, this is a new format. This is a new platform. And I can see people like Steven Soderbergh, people like, like that are going to be really interested in these kinds of formats and to play with them.
It does seem like it's still people experimenting with the medium.
Totally.
I would say with film in general, people are experimenting with the medium. I mean, if you look at, I think Tenet's an experiment in the medium. I think that The Matrix was an experiment in the medium. I mean, I think that we are always changing the Matrix. Like, there's a lot of things about the Matrix, about like the bullet time and the other things like that, there was I think that I read this interview. I think that Will Smith looked at they wanted Will Smith to be Neo. He looked at the script and didn't think they could pull the bullet time off in a way that would work, and just was like, no, I don't want to do it. It's going to look stupid. Yeah. And so I think that there's, I think that we experiment.
There's a difference though between novelty, attempting to introduce new ideas and novelty into an existing medium. It doesn't sound like what's going on with Vision Pro. This is a novel medium. This is a brand new, everything's novel.
Yeah, it's a novel medium.
There's like film grammar, and some of the film grammar will work, and some of it won't. Right. And what's the new grammar? And if it is it more like theater in some ways? Is it more like an amusement park ride in some ways? And the answer is yes. Also, it's like film a little bit, and it's also like other things. It's that, and that's why I liked having this director do it, because he seemed to really get what he was trying to do, which is explore what the rules might be and how to tell this story. And yeah, they might not all have come off to everybody's satisfaction, but I really did feel like a very intelligent person and a team of people around him were saying, what does this afford us? And it didn't feel novel as much as it felt like we want to make a good thing in this format, but we don't know what a good thing in this format is, so let's try.
Berger is a German director who did All Quiet on the Western Front and a bunch of German language films, and is a somewhat experimental director. All Quiet was a little bit experimental in some of its so he was willing to try something. I think All Quiet or 1917 probably could have been done in Apple Vision Pro. It might have been an interesting thing.
One thing we were talking about is there's a new film coming out called Here. It's with Tom Hanks, and it's all happening in one room. And a lot of us think that had the headset been 3 years earlier, there would have been a version of that film that was shot.
Well, when Hitchcock did 12 Angry Men, which is all in one room, or Lifeboat, which is all in one boat,
right?
That was a very progressive experimental thing to do. And a director like Hitchcock relished the challenge.
I think you could build movies that largely occur in a room, that you're sitting there have been experiencing those things,
and at that point it's theater, right? I mean, that's the interesting thing. At that point, it's also a lot like theater, which is one of the things that I got out of this was I really want to see a more theatrical experience in Vision Pro. I think that would be really interesting.
I would love to see that.
Whether it is you're sitting in the front row watching the stage,
like I said, I would have loved to have seen Hamilton.
We built a set, or the other thing, which is you build a set and shoot it.
Right. If they did that, I would buy a Vision Pro, because I love theater, and I would love to see theater.
Would be amazing.
And we've done little bits of that.
Like
we did a 5-minute test years ago where we basically put the camera in the perfect place on stage for that scene for a stage play. So they're talking at a table. They were talking at a kitchen table, and we put the camera right there. So now you're just sitting there at the table with them, and then the next time they're in the living room, and we found just the perfect place to put the camera, and you get to watch that scene. We don't move the camera. We just let you just watch the scene. And it's funny. We did it, and then we watched it on the headset, and then we watched it in the audience. And after you watch it on the headset, it's really hard to go back to the audience because you were so close. Like, you were right there, and they're used to being always on, because that's how that works.
That's how live theater works.
And I think you will see theater companies doing some of these things for the headset. And again, one of the big things that's happening at the same time as this is the Blackmagic camera. If the Blackmagic camera is anywhere near what the specs are that Apple talked about at WWDC, suddenly you have a lot of people with, you're promoting it, you're putting this, and I think that Apple's had it feels like they have a lot of powder that's dry that they can start to roll this stuff out. But I think they needed to have a camera available to do it that wasn't an art project. And I think that's where the Blackmagic camera comes in. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. I think that the press release or something that someone showed on one of the websites when I was looking at it was talking about the fact that there's 150 3D movies. I think that's already exists. I mean, I think that they were talking there about 3D movies. Like you have to understand there's 3D and then there's spatial and then there's 180 degrees. And those are all three different things. Like there's the 3D films I would say the 3D films are converted to 3D. They already existed. You already have those. The spatial stuff shot with like for instance, the phone is a different thing. It's closer to the 3D. And then the 180 spatial is what we saw in this one film. And I think we're going to see a lot more. I don't think we're going to see 150 titles in the next 3 months. I think we're going to see maybe something every month, every couple weeks. We'll get something new to look at. But I think it's going to put a lot of pressure on it.
There is a list.